Dalpo is an unusual genius who can precisely control his exam scores. While everyone fights for perfect marks, he aims for 0 on purpose, earning the nickname Zero King. One day, the homeroom teacher announces that a TV station will hold a quiz show with a prize of 30 million won. Only one student will be chosen to represent the school. This time, Dalpo decides not to hide his true ability. When the test begins, everyone is focused on answering, except Dalpo, who's taking a nap. Only when the teacher warns that 10 minutes are left does he slowly write his name and start answering. When grading, the teacher's faces darken because most papers fail. Once a 92 and a 96 appear, one teacher suggests stopping there, convinced no one can do better. But the homeroom teacher suddenly grows serious. He has just witnessed a perfect, flawless paper. To everyone's shock, the paper belongs to Dalpo, the so-called Zero King. News spreads fast across the school, and classmates stare at Dalpo in disbelief. Chansu, the usual top student, feels threatened for the first time. He gathers his followers and tells them to spread rumors that Dalpo cheated. Soon, gossip spreads like wildfire. Chansu even fans the flames, hinting that Dalpo must have stolen the test in advance. At first, Dalpo doesn't care about the nasty rumors until someone slanders his biological father as a criminal. He finally explodes. In his heart, his father was always a loving and respected fire captain. Shockingly, even the homeroom teacher believes the rumors and scolds Dalpo in front of everyone for being dishonest. Dalpo denies it, but nobody trusts him, except his niece In-ha. In the end, the teacher selects Chansu for the quiz show, and Chansu lives up to expectations and wins the first round. On camera, he confesses his love to In-ha. The class erupts in cheers. Only In-ha looks at Dalpo's empty seat, determined to prove his innocence. Elsewhere, the homeroom teacher orders Dalpo to write an apology letter. Dalpo refuses to apologize for something he didn't do and demands the teacher show proof of his cheating. The teacher argues, "The whole school is talking about it. Isn't that proof enough?" Just then, Dalpo notices a female teacher printing papers, and a plan comes to mind. He stares at his teacher and says coldly, "When I walk out of here, I'll tell everyone you have an affair with her." The teacher panics, and Dalpo goes on, "If you can't prove this is false, write your resignation and leave." With that, he leaves the office, leaving the teachers stunned. Meanwhile, the whole class celebrates Chansu's victory. Suddenly, In-ha bursts in and blows out the candles. She rejects Chansu's confession in front of everyone and demands they all apologize to Dalpo. Chansu gets angry and asks In-ha to show proof that Dalpo didn't cheat. The two start arguing and even make a bet. If In-ha finds proof, Chansu will apologize to Dalpo and share half the prize. Otherwise, she must take 10 slaps from him in front of everyone. Seeing his niece fight so hard for him, Dalpo is deeply moved. To keep her from losing, he makes a bold decision. While Dalpo is out, In-ha sneaks into his room to look for evidence. Inside a pile of comic books, she accidentally finds an English book marked with a library stamp. Out of curiosity, she goes to the library and is shocked to see that every single book has Dalpo's borrowing record. She cannot believe her seemingly dumb uncle actually loves studying this much. So, In-ha photocopies all the records and organizes them as evidence. Meanwhile, Dalpo arrives at the TV station for the quiz show audition. As expected, he easily qualifies. Soon, the so-called Zero King, who always ranks last, faces top student Chansu head-on. From the very first question, his performance stuns the entire audience. The host asks, "Out of every 43 people, one suffers from a rare condition. They hiccup whenever they lie. This disease is named after which fairy tale character?" Unexpectedly, Dalpo uses his one and only lifeline and chooses Chansu. During the 30-second help segment, he even boasts, "If I crush you here today, let me just slap you 10 times. Everyone's jaws drop in shock. It turns out Dalpo's real motive for joining the show is to get revenge for In-ha. Even after wasting his precious lifeline, he remains confident he can win. Right away, he gives the answer: Pinocchio. The host congratulates him and asks if he has ever met someone with this syndrome. Dalpo nods and says that person is very unique. She talks a lot, and says everything without thinking it through, so her nickname is Loudmouth Witch. The whole class bursts into laughter, while Inha mutters angrily, "Dalpo, you're dead." The second question follows. According to the 60-year zodiac cycle, what year is this one? However, this question triggers Dalpo's most painful memory. He remembers that his real name is Hamayong, and that he and his big brother Jaemyong were once famous prodigies in town. Back then, the family of 4 lived happily until a devastating fire changed everything. Their father, the fire captain, rushed to the scene with his team. The factory manager reported 2 workers trapped inside, but never mentioned the dangerous chemicals stored there. Dalpo's father rushed in with his men, not knowing the workers already escaped. Ironically, it was those very workers who had accidentally started the fire. Shortly after the firefighters entered, the chemicals exploded. All 9 firefighters died, and the blaze lasted until the next day. Afterward, the manager shifted the blame, claiming he had warned the captain, who insisted on going in anyway. Strangely, only 8 bodies were recovered. Then a witness said he saw someone resembling Dalpo's father in the pouring rain. Since the witness suffered from Pinocchio syndrome, the media fully trusted his words and seized the chance to sensationalize the story. One female reporter in particular showed no ethics. She ordered her team to edit the interview maliciously, framing Dalpo's father as a fugitive. The fake report enraged the public. Wherever Dalpo and his family went, they suffered humiliation and insults. Eventually, their mother could no longer bear the pressure. After setting off one last firework with her younger son, she jumped into the ocean with him. By the time Jaemyong arrived, only a suicide note and one of his brother's shoes remained. In despair, he roared at the indifferent media. Cruelly, that greedy female reporter kept exploiting the tragedy for attention. No one expected that Dalpo was saved by an old man with Alzheimer's. The old man insisted Dalpo was his eldest son who went missing at sea years ago, and warmly introduced his younger son Choi and granddaughter Inha to him. Just like that, Dalpo suddenly gained a younger brother who was 20 years older than him and a niece his own age. At first, Choi didn't want to take Dalpo in, but after seeing how patiently he cared for the sick old man, he finally accepted him. Dalpo never revealed his true identity, and as time went by, their bond grew stronger. But fate never seemed to favor Dalpo. One day, after fixing the TV, he accidentally learned a cruel truth. The heartless reporter who destroyed his family was Inha's mother. From then on, his attitude toward Inha changed drastically, and he started bullying her intentionally. Yet growing up together, the two have already developed a bond they can't let go of. So when Dalpo heard about Inha's bet with the top student, he didn't hesitate to join the show. And as expected, he defeats the opponent with ease. After his revenge, he sets out on his journey home. Meanwhile, Inha notices the darkening sky and realizes rain is coming. She mutters that she'll never bring that guy an umbrella, but right after, she hiccups uncontrollably. Soon, a bus pulls into the fishing village. As Dalpo wonders how to leave in the pouring rain, he spots Inha fast asleep on a bench. The scene flashes back to when Chan-Su told Inha he planned to confess to her on the show, and Dalpo secretly overheard it. To stop the girl he loves from being taken away, he decided to show his real ability during the test. Later, Inha asked why he was so eager to join that show. At the time, Dalpo didn't know how to answer. Now he mutters quietly, "Because I like you." Just then, Inha wakes up, rushes to him with an umbrella, but finds it broken. While she's standing there helpless, Dalpo suddenly puts a traffic cone on her head. Worried he might get the wrong idea, Inha lies that Grandpa sent her. He worried you'd get wet. Dalpo, meanwhile, suppresses his own feelings, knowing he must never fall for the daughter of his enemy. Soon, a few more years pass by. After high school, Dalpo becomes a taxi driver to support the family, while Inha chases her dream of becoming a reporter. But since she suffers from Pinocchio syndrome, finding a job becomes incredibly difficult for her. One morning, she asks Dalpo to drive her to a job interview. He is half asleep and grabs her skirt by accident. Inha screams, "Pervert!" and punches him. Seeing the bruise on his eldest son's face, Grandpa angrily scolds Inha with a spoon, telling her to respect her uncle. Inha feels wronged, not knowing how to explain herself. After breakfast, they head to her 35th interview. She is especially nervous because this company is where her mother works. To ease her nerves, Dalpo has her spend 5,001 on a lucky button to wear around her neck. Unexpectedly, her mother, who disappeared 13 years ago, suddenly messages her. Inha almost bursts into tears of joy and quickly shares the news with Dalpo. But he shows no happiness. His heart is still filled with hatred toward that woman. At the company, Inha looks at her mother's poster and opens her arms with hope. But the moment they meet, the joy she expects never comes, only her mother's indifference. The other interviewers notice Inha's Pinocchio syndrome and directly point out that she is unfit to be a reporter. Inha argues that a reporter who cannot lie would actually be more trustworthy. Her mother, Ms. Song, then gives her a test. If she can hold back her hiccups, she'll be hired. As expected, Inha fails. Her mother tells her that as a reporter, she must learn to lie, because the truth is often built on lies. Finally, she mercilessly announces that Inha fails the interview. Inha is heartbroken, not understanding why her mother treats her this way. She needs to confirm whether that text was really sent by her mother. Just as she feared, Ms. Song had already changed her number. Despite this, Inha whispers softly, "Mom, I miss you." Ms. Song hugs her lightly, but cruelly replies, "I'm sorry. I didn't have enough free time to miss you." Inha breaks down completely. She realizes that all these years, her mother has never cared about her. She immediately calls the number that sent her the text, angrily demanding, "Why did you steal my texts? Why do you make me feel so pathetic?" The person on the other end stays silent, but after hanging up, he keeps saying, "I'm sorry." Dalpo waits anxiously by the roadside, only to see Inha running out in tears. He calls her right away, but Inha doesn't answer. Instead, she texts him saying she is with her mother and can't talk. Not wanting to embarrass her, Dalpo doesn't expose her lie and asks how everything is going. Inha lies that her mother treats her well, then starts hiccuping uncontrollably. Dalpo decides not to bother her and leaves, but halfway, he can't stop thinking about Inha and turns back. When he arrives, Inha is gone. Instead, he unexpectedly sees Ms. Song hailing a taxi. At that moment, Dalpo wants to kill this cruel woman, but for Inha's sake, he holds back his anger. He confronts Ms. Song as Inha's uncle, asking why she treats her daughter so cruelly. Ms. Song doesn't take him seriously. She only tells him to advise his niece not to chase such unrealistic dreams. Meanwhile, Inha packs up all her journalism books and plans to burn them. When Dalpo comes home, his adoptive father anxiously tells him Inha has left with her suitcase, looking like she plans to run away. Dalpo rushes out in panic, afraid she might do something reckless. Suddenly, pieces of Inha's exam admission ticket fall from the rooftop. Dalpo dashes upstairs, calling her name again and again. Then he hears a hiccup and spots her feet sticking out. He finally breathes in relief. He walks up slowly and tells her that he knows everything she went through today. This makes Inha feel even more ashamed. She knows Dalpo gave up his own studies to support her, yet she keeps failing again and again. She admits she doesn't want to burden him, but reality keeps crushing her, so she decides to burn her books and give up her dream. Dalpo asks if she really wants to quit. Inha answers firmly yes, but her hiccups betray her. She breaks down, admitting she is lying, but she has no choice. Suddenly, Dalpo grabs her hand and says seriously, "Let's become reporters together." His goal is not just to help Inha realize her dream, but also to take down the unethical reporters in a just way. In the following month, Dalpo throws himself into studying, preparing with Inha for the upcoming interview. To avoid worrying his adoptive father, Dalpo does his best to avoid him every day, but the old man already knows everything. Seeing how tired Dalpo is, the old man decides to support his dreams. The next day, he eagerly drags Dalpo to the barber shop. First, he picks a stylish haircut from a fashion magazine, then carefully selects a suit for Dalpo. When Dalpo walks out in his new look, the old man exclaims, "Oh my, who are you?" Dalpo stares at his reflection, feeling uneasy. He doesn't look like the old man's silly son anymore. Unexpectedly, the old man has long known Dalpo is not his eldest son. He was afraid his younger son would drive Dalpo away, so he pretended not to know. "Don't worry about me anymore. the old man says solemnly. Do what you want, and live your own life. Hearing this, Dalpo bursts into tears and promises he will always be his son. When Dalpo gets home, Choi doesn't recognize him, and asks their father who the guest is. The old man looks serious and says, he's your big brother. Just then, In-ha comes out and exclaims excitedly, my uncle looks so great. The old man smiles proudly, saying, Dalpo inherits his good looks and smart brain. Seeing his daughter so infatuated, Choi suddenly remembers just yesterday he praised her as the sweetest and prettiest girl. But now, looking at the handsome Dalpo, he feels his daughter isn't worthy of him. He can't help but scold her to throw her shabby clothes out. In-ha rolls her eyes and retorts that he once said she was prettier than Miss Korea. Choi argues that he was drunk at the time, then warns, if you keep acting like this, Dalpo will think you're easy and goes after you. In-ha helplessly replies that it's impossible because Dalpo has never considered her as a woman, and she has never considered him as a man. Hearing this, Dalpo closes the door sadly, missing her next words. She warns her father not to look down on Dalpo, as his appearance, personality, and intelligence are all in top 1%. After saying that, she hurries back to her room, her heart racing uncontrollably. Soon, the reporter recruitment begins. Dalpo learns 3 years of professional knowledge in just 1 month and successfully passes the written test. Afterward, he accompanies In-ha to her 36th interview. Just then, Dalpo encounters his biggest rival, Seo. In fact, Seo is the person who had been texting In-ha. He unknowingly used her mother's old number, and In-ha, unaware of this, sent texts to it for 13 years. Over time, Seo develops feelings for this girl he has never met. To get closer to her, he hides his identity as the heir of a wealthy family and applies to become a reporter. Soon, the first interview starts, and the 3 of them are in the same group. Dalpo notices that Seo is always staring at In-ha, so he deliberately walks up to him and teasingly says, "You have a runny nose." The interviewer then asks everyone to line up according to their numbers and report a video clip one by one. They are all given scores based on their performance. The rules put the first person at a disadvantage, and Dalpo happens to be first. After watching the video, he gives a strictly factual statement. The next 2 competitors embellish Dalpo's report to make it more engaging. When it's In-ha's turn, like Dalpo, she chooses to truthfully describe what she saw. The interviewer is confused and asks why she didn't copy the previous one. Just as In-ha is about to admit she has Pinocchio syndrome, both Dalpo and Seo stop her, saying she is a reporter. Dalpo emphasizes that a reporter should put facts first and not exaggerate or distort them without verification. Seo agrees, adding that it's better to stop broadcasting than to do fake reporting. After the first interview, In-ha believes she's definitely failed again and regrets dragging Dalpo down. Dalpo comforts her, saying it's not a big deal. But In-ha retorts, it's better if at least one of them makes it, whoever it is. Dalpo suddenly realizes that she doesn't seem to care if he gets hired. Realizing she said the wrong thing, In-ha tries to run away, but Dalpo stops her, saying softly, "No matter what, I want to be with you." Seo feels extremely jealous of how close they are, so he shouts that the test results are out. Fortunately, both Dalpo and In-ha pass successfully. The old man is overjoyed at the good news and encourages them to keep up the good work. But Choi feels uneasy, even imagining the intimate scene of his daughter tying Dalpo's tie. In anger, he throws a pillow, accidentally injuring his father. Meanwhile, a second interview is held at the company. Before the debate starts, Dalpo and In-ha encourage each other. But when the case is revealed, Dalpo's face goes pale. The topic is the same case from 13 years ago that involved his father. Recently, his father's remains were found at a construction site, which cleared his name, but the false reports from back then had already left an indelible scar on this family. Now, the interviewer asks everyone to debate who is at fault for the case. Dalpo completely breaks down. He had no idea his father endured wrongful accusations for 13 years. All this time, he thought his father and brother had abandoned him, which is why he willingly stayed with his adoptive father. Watching his competitors voice their opinions, he tries hard to hide his anger, but then In-ha speaks up. She believes the main cause of the tragedy was that the witness with Pinocchio syndrome mistook the person. Because the witness couldn't lie, the police and the media trusted his testimony. She concludes that it's a very unfortunate accident that they can't blame on anyone. Suddenly, Dalpo angrily retorts, "Is there no one to blame?" The Pinocchio and the reporters should have known that people believe everything they say, so they should have been careful enough. But they clearly didn't realize this, and their thoughtlessness action killed a family. Despite this, Inha stands firm in her view. Dalpo then understands why a person with Pinocchio syndrome shouldn't become a reporter. As long as they believe they're right, they won't hiccup. Seeing Dalpo so hostile toward her, Inha sadly leaves the interview room. Seo also announces his withdrawal from the interview and leaves with her. In the elevator, he carefully tries to comfort her, but Inha ignores him because her mind is in turmoil. She understands that everyone can express their opinion in the debate, but she still wished Dalpo had taken her side. Seo points out that she must like Dalpo. Inha quickly denies it, but her hiccups give her away. Elsewhere, Dalpo comes to the rooftop and can no longer hold back his tears. He realizes that his father was not a fugitive, but a true hero. After calming down, he heads to the police station, only to learn that his father's remains had already been claimed. Meanwhile, Dalpo's big brother has just held a funeral for their father. Jae-myung believes he has no family left, so he fills his heart with revenge and decides to make those who destroyed his family pay the price. His first target is the factory manager who pushed all the blame onto his father. Jae-myung pretends to fall and secretly steals his wallet. Later, he uses it as bait to lure the manager to a remote place. The man doesn't sense any danger and even walked straight into the trap. Jae-myung mercilessly closes the lid and weighs it down with bricks. No matter how desperately the man begs, Jae-myung stays unmoved. Even worse, he also kills the 2 workers who caused the fire years ago and frames the manager for their deaths. He wants the world to remember the manager as a monster who killed his friends for money, exactly like what his father went through. After 36 failed job applications, Inha follows her father's advice and works at a convenience store. Does that make sense? She can't help crying to a customer. Uncle Dalpo made it after 1 month, but I prepared for 3 years and still fail. Just then, Seo, who has a crush on her, suddenly appears. He mistakes Dalpo for her real uncle and tries to comfort her. That night, Dalpo chats with his father about his first day at work. Inha pretends not to care, but when she remembers even Dalpo thinks she's unfit to be a reporter, her anger boils over. She secretly dips his toothbrush into the toilet and puts it back, but when Dalpo picks it up, Inha feels no satisfaction, only disgust, and throws it away. The next day, Seo visits the store again to chat with Inha. Suddenly, her mother appears and offers her a job. In fact, Ms. Song's company faces a credibility crisis, and she plans to use Inha's Pinocchio syndrome as a publicity stunt. Inha refuses immediately, but her mother insists that pride and principles are unimportant and urges her to reconsider. Holding the business card, Inha feels conflicted because her dream has always been to become a reporter. After work, she runs into Dalpo in the elevator and invites him to the rooftop for a talk. Inha admitted that she can't stop hiccuping since she denied liking him. Dalpo is shocked, and at the same time, this love troubles him. He does not know how to face the daughter of his enemy, even though he loves her deeply. Inha also knows they have no future. To outsiders, Dalpo is just her uncle. She promises him she will try to find a boyfriend and slowly let go of these feelings. Dalpo feels sad, but he cannot stop her. Later that day, after thinking it over, Inha calls her mother and accepts the job. Unexpectedly, Seo also joins the same company just to chase after her. This way, Inha becomes a reporter, but Dalpo turns into her rival. After work, the old man prepares a big dinner for his son and granddaughter. But when Dalpo sees the beef tripe, he instantly recalls the autopsy scene from earlier. He rushes to the bathroom and vomits uncontrollably, leaving his family worried. Back in his room, Dalpo sees the stomach medicine Inha has prepared. At the same time, his father brings him medicine too, showing the same concern. Right then, his younger brother also walks in with medicine in hand. Looking at the 3 packs of medicine on the table, Dalpo feels a wave of warmth in his heart. Soon after, the team leader assigns Inha and Seo to the police station to search for valuable story. He reminds them to run faster because their rivals have also started the same task today. By coincidence, those two reporters turn out to be Dalpo and his partner, Yoon. Dalpo arrives first at the station, only to find the other reporters stationed there looking exhausted. He immediately realizes that the competition here is fierce. Just then, he runs into an old classmate, Chan-soo, who now works as a police officer. Just as the two are catching up, Inha also arrives. Chan-soo leads them to the reporters' lounge, and right as the door opens, Seo and Yoon rush in. However, to everyone's astonishment, the condition of the room is unbelievably poor. The rookie reporters have no choice but to keep pestering the police for leads, but make no progress. Worse, they get kicked out for interfering with work. In contrast, the clever Dalpo works efficiently and quickly builds rapport with a cop. Not wanting to fall behind, Inha begs her old friend Chan-soo for help. Out of past friendship, he mentions a minor case about a woman who unfortunately died from over-exercising. With this lead, Inha becomes thrilled. Unexpectedly, Yoon secretly steals the story with a stethoscope trick and contacts her partner to take action. The four split into two groups. One heads to the hospital, the other to the gym. After a full day, they still find nothing useful. Now, whoever gets the gym's security footage first will win the exclusive. However, the owner refuses to hand it over, worried it might hurt the gym's reputation. After the interns beg and plead, the owner finally lets them view the footage but refuses to give them a copy. While the others take notes, clever Dalpo secretly records the video on his phone. Yoon is overjoyed, convinced they have won this round. Later, the reporters learn that the victim's husband abandons her for a slim beauty. Out of jealousy, she tries desperately to lose weight and look prettier. Yoon rushes to publish the story, but Dalpo senses something is off. Not long ago, Inha had reminded him that he had made a serious mistake. Dalpo also wonders why a woman obsessed with beauty looks so careless with her hair and clothes. So he rushes to the funeral to visit the deceased's family, and the truth finally comes to light. The woman wanted to donate part of her liver to her daughter, who suffers from severe cirrhosis, but because of her obesity, she must lose 30 kilograms in a month before surgery. That was why she pushed herself too hard, leading to the tragedy. Before Dalpo can react, the flawed news report he and Yoon prepared is already on the air. The girl cries out in despair, saying it isn't true. Just then, Ms. Song begins reporting the true story. In fact, Inha has already sent something off, so she visited the deceased's family to learn the truth. Ms. Song patiently waited for her competitors to make a mistake and then delivered the final blow. The incident severely damages the credibility of Dalpo's company. The superior angrily demands an explanation, only to discover Dalpo has disappeared. At this moment, Dalpo falls into deep self-doubt. He sits alone in the meeting room where he once argued fiercely with Inha, remembering how he criticized her for not being careful or objective, saying she is not fit to be a reporter. But now, he makes the same mistake himself and brings pain to another family. He starts to feel no different from the unethical reporters he despises. Back home, Dalpo complains to his father that being a reporter is awful. It pays little, and he gets scolded every day. He says he wants to quit and go back to being a taxi driver. The old man sees right through him and says, "I'm sure you're choosing to run away because you're afraid." These words fill Dalpo with shame. Lying in bed, he stares at dozens of missed calls on his phone and recalls the promise he once made with Inha to become reporters together. In the end, he gathers his courage and returns to the company, ready to accept punishment. To his surprise, the leader doesn't scold him. He explains he has been through something similar, so he will let Dalpo off this once. Dalpo wonders how he got past it. The leader replies, "I couldn't. I just keep reminding myself to stay cautious." These words strike Dalpo deeply, and he decides to throw himself back into work with a renewed attitude. At the police station, Inha pesters Chan-soo for clues about an arson case. Dalpo suddenly shows up. Inha instinctively tries to run away, only to nearly collapse due to exhaustion. She refuses his concern and leaves with Seo's help. Dalpo watches them go, feeling bitter inside. Soon after, Yoon arrives and shares new clues about the arson case. The suspect is none other than the factory manager who framed Dalpo's father. While checking the manager's call records before his disappearance, Dalpo notices a familiar number. Long ago, an old man accidentally damaged a truck. Kind-hearted Dalpo decided to help him handle the situation and left his number on the vehicle. Now, Dalpo suspects the truck owner might be an accomplice in the arson case, so he decides to meet the owner under the pretense of paying for the damage. As the figure walks closer, Dalpo's expression shifts from expectation to shock. The man looks exactly like his long-lost brother. Only when he introduces himself as Jae-myung does Dalpo realize it really is his brother. But then, a disturbing thought crosses his mind. Since all three people involved in the arson case once framed their father, Dalpo suspects his brother may have done something he never should have. So he decides to hide his identity for now. Just then, the police suddenly show up. Dalpo hurriedly pulls Jae-myung away, but Chon-soo still catches a glimpse of them. Later, the two end up at a small diner. Dalpo offers to pay for the truck's repair, but Jae-myung refuses, saying it was fate that brought them together, and they should be friends. Before parting, Jae-myung notices how much Dalpo looks like his late younger brother. Dalpo cannot help asking, "Can I treat you like my big brother?" Jae-myung happily agrees, and says he looks forward to seeing him again. Driven by longing, Dalpo hails a taxi and secretly follows Jae-myung. He wants to know how his brother has been doing and whether he is involved in the case. But in the end, Dalpo still doesn't dare to ring the bell. He is not ready to face the harsh truth. At the same time, a man is stopped by traffic police for drunk driving. To avoid punishment, he suddenly jumps into the car and speeds away. The officer immediately gives chase, but the man refuses to stop and drives recklessly through the streets. Meanwhile, a little boy on crutches slowly crosses the street. As danger closes in, he tries to move faster, but falls down. To make things worse, the van loses control and overturns. At the last second, a water delivery truck slams into it, blocking its force. The driver stumbles out, and only after confirming the boy is safe does he breathe a sigh of relief before collapsing. Coincidentally, In-ha's news team records the entire incident. The story quickly makes headlines, and the driver is hailed as a national hero. Unexpectedly, the hero driver is Jae-myung, and his injuries are not serious. In-ha finds him and offers her business card, asking for an interview. Jae-myung looks at her and shows a sinister smile. Not long ago, he accidentally learned that In-ha is the daughter of his enemy. Meanwhile, the damaged truck is towed to the police station, and Dalpo immediately recognizes it as his brother's vehicle. Hearing the driver is badly hurt, he rushes to the hospital. At that moment, Jae-myung is being interviewed. He says he mistook the boy as his long-lost younger brother, which is why he risked his life to save him. He explains that 13 years ago, a false report branded his brave father as a fugitive, which led his mother to jump into the sea with his little brother. In-ha realizes Jae-myung is a victim of that tragedy and angrily asks who the corrupt reporter was. Just as Jae-myung is about to answer, Dalpo appears and drags her away. In-ha thinks he is trying to steal her scoop, but Dalpo sternly warns her, "Stay away from Jae-myung, he's dangerous." In-ha argues that a man who risks his life to save a stranger cannot be bad. Dalpo knows that his brother's revenge will inevitably target In-ha, but he cannot reveal the truth. He can only beg her repeatedly to trust him, stay away from Jae-myung, and not to ask why. Seeing how serious he is, In-ha reluctantly agrees to keep her distance from Jae-myung after the interview. Only after making sure she isn't lying does Dalpo finally breathe easier. Elsewhere, Jae-myung greets the cameraman. Long time no see. The cameraman looks uneasy as his memory flashes back to 13 years ago. Back then, he tried to stop Ms. Song from maliciously editing the report, but she sarcastically said Jae-myung was as shameless as his father. Jae-myung had rushed out in fury, shouting that Ms. Song was unworthy of being a reporter. In the end, Ms. Song accused him of attempted murder and sent him to the police station. Remembering this, the cameraman feels a sense of fear. He never expected to meet Jae-myung again. Jae-myung glances at In-ha's business card and asks if she is Ms. Song's daughter. The cameraman hesitates, then nods. Jae-myung sneers and says, "Things just got interesting." Soon after, Ms. Song reports on Jae-myung's brave rescue of the student. She also publicly apologizes for the false report 13 years ago and promises to only report the truth from now on. But Jae-myung does not forgive her, because her apology is not sincere. Dalpo also knows his brother will never stop seeking revenge. Later, Dalpo visits his late father and finds the glass covered with apology notes. Looking at the happy family photo, he finally breaks down in tears. Just then, Jae-myung appears. Strangely, he treats Dalpo with coldness, even throwing his flowers into the trash. It turns out that Jae-myung accidentally learned that Dalpo is a reporter, so he suspected that Dalpo had ulterior motives for getting close to him. This makes Jae-myung hostile toward Dalpo, refusing to accept his interview request. Dalpo doesn't give up and presses him on whether he knows Moon Deok-soo. Jae-myung becomes uneasy because Moon Deok-soo is the factory manager he locked in the well. He lies, saying he's never heard of this person. But after several attempts to probe, Dalpo realizes that the manager has been killed, and the murderer is none other than his brother. He seriously asks Jae-myung, "Do you want an apology from the world, or do you want revenge?" Jae-myung answers without hesitation, "If I had to choose one, it would be revenge." He then grabs the recording phone and throws it into the nearby fire. But Dalpo remains calm because the phone was just a decoy, and the real recorder is hidden in his tie clip. Still, Dalpo doesn't plan to hand the recording over to the police. Instead, he wants to bury the truth. Meanwhile, the cameraman shows In-ha a video of Jae-myung being interviewed 13 years ago. In-ha is shocked to discover that her mother was the reporter who destroyed Jae-myung's family. Her mother's towering, glorious image in her mind shatters in an instant. The cameraman admits that he has a bad feeling about Jae-myung and warns In-ha to be cautious. Just then, In-ha notices a shoe in the video. The cameraman explains that the shoe belongs to Jae-myung's younger brother. In-ha suddenly recalls that Dalpo has an identical shoe. She hurries home to ask her grandfather about the shoe. The old man explains that saved Dalpo a long time ago after it got caught on the buoy. It's only then that In-ha understands why Dalpo suddenly disliked her as a child and always bullied her, why he strongly opposed her becoming a reporter, and why he was so angry during the debate. Her heart aches so much she can hardly breathe, unable to imagine the pain Dalpo has endured all this time. In-ha approaches Dalpo and gently asks, "Is your real name Ki Ha-myung?" Dalpo is shocked and asks how she knows. In-ha sobs in despair, repeatedly saying, "I'm sorry." After calming down, she finally learns all about Dalpo's past. In-ha knows full well that it was her mother who caused this tragedy, so she decides to seek justice for Dalpo in her own way. Soon after, Ms. Song holds a public lecture. During the final Q&A session, In-ha questions her, asking if she has overlooked the facts in her pursuit of influence. Ms. Song firmly denies it, but In-ha suddenly hiccups, clearly not convinced by the answer. She then brings up how 13 years ago, Ms. Song ignored the probability that the fire captain died in the line of duty and even maliciously edited his family's interviews, causing a once happy family to fall apart. This proves how dangerous news without factual basis can be. Despite this, Ms. Song defends herself, blaming the witness with Pinocchio syndrome for misleading everyone. At that moment, In-ha recalls her earlier debate with Dalpo. Back then, she had said the same thing as her mother, only to be harshly refuted by Dalpo. Now she finally understands the meaning of his words and publicly retorts, "The Pinocchio and the reporters should have known that people believe everything they say, so they should have been careful enough." She looks straight at her mother and says, "Not knowing this is your fault, and clearly, you are responsible for this tragedy." Her words leave Ms. Song utterly speechless. After the lecture, In-ha becomes anxious, fearing that she might be fired. Dalpo asks her why she did this. She responds calmly, saying that she cannot stand by and do nothing. He presses her further, asking, "Aren't you worried about your mother?" In-ha tries to avoid the question, but Dalpo blocks her way. She finally admits that she is indeed worried, but her mother was wrong. She adds that if Dalpo wants to pursue the matter, she won't stop him. After they part ways, Dalpo suddenly receives a call from Co and learns that Jae Myung is at In-ha's company. He immediately rushes back to the building, and sure enough, he sees Jae Myung tailing In-ha. He restrains her and demands to know how she knows so much about his family, but In-ha refuses to reveal the truth. In a critical moment, Dalpo arrives just in time. Seeing that his brother has completely lost control, he has to confess that he is Ha Myung. Jae Myung doesn't believe him and warns him not to lie. Dalpo angrily shouts, "You're the one who lied." It turns out that Jae Myung had promised their father would return. Once he came back, everything would be clear up, and they could watch fireworks together. Only then does Jae Myung believe the man in front of him is his younger brother, and he tightly hugs him. Soon after, Jae Myung takes his brother to a restaurant and orders his favorite pizza from childhood. He wonders how Dalpo managed to survive back then. Dalpo explains that he was saved by an old man with Alzheimer's who treated him like his own son. While they are talking, a few passers-by recognize Jae Myung and approach him for autographs. Dalpo feels conflicted, and Jae Myung also finds everything ironic. Ms. Song, who framed their father, turned him into a hero. Jae Myung then solemnly tells his brother to continue living as Dalpo and never reveal their relationship. Dalpo chokes up and asks why. Jae Myung, with tears in his eyes, quietly admits, "I've killed people." These words feel like a knife stabbing into Dalpo's heart. The next day, at a company meeting, Yoon says she is tracking a story about national hero Jae Myung. Earlier, while gathering material at the police station, she learned that the police have named Jae Myung the prime suspect in an arson case. Yoon believes that Jae Myung is a hot topic, and exposing the dark side of this hero will bring unprecedented attention to the company. The leader immediately assigns her to handle the case. Dalpo panics and confesses to the leader that Jae Myung indeed killed people, but he promises to convince his brother to turn himself in, which would create an even bigger exclusive story. The leader agrees to the proposal and assigns Yoon to another case. Yoon is furious and questions Dalpo about stealing her story. Dalpo simply apologizes and hurriedly leaves. With nowhere to vent her anger, Yoon ends up drinking alone to drown her frustrations. Later that day, Dalpo goes to his brother and begs him to give up his revenge. Jae Myung insists that he can never forgive Ms. Song because she slandered their father and caused their mother's death. However, Dalpo questions him about why he abandoned them back then. All along, he believed that if Jae Myung had been there that day, their mother wouldn't have done that. Jae Myung explains that he didn't run away. Instead, he went to see Ms. Song. He thought by doing that he could clear their father's name and protect their family. But Ms. Song used the interview to slander their father. It is only at this moment that Dalpo realizes he has misunderstood his brother all along. If he had found his brother earlier, perhaps the tragedy could have been avoided. "It's all my fault," he says desperately. "I made Jae Myung a murderer." The next day, Yoon wakes up and is shocked to find herself in the newsroom. She plans to slip away quietly, but overhears Jae Myung agreeing to be interviewed by Ms. Song. Yoon immediately shares the news with Dalpo. Dalpo senses something is wrong and realizes that Jae Myung is planning to revenge on Ms. Song. Just then, he receives an anonymous text message. The sender claims to have witnessed Jae Myung kill the manager and provides the manager's current location. Dalpo rushes to find his brother and begs him to turn himself in. He promises that he will take down Ms. Song in his own way. However, Jae Myung refuses. He has already noticed that Dalpo has fallen for In-ha and knows that he could never harm her mother. So Jae Myung says he will put an end to Ms. Song himself. With that, he turns and walks away. Dalpo returns to the company with a heavy heart, only to find that In-ha has been waiting for him. She knows he has held back his hatred for her mother because of her. So she decides not to burden him any longer and tells him to go against her mother properly. Though Dalpo feels sorry for her, he knows that it is time to face reality. The next day, Dalpo meets with his brother again and declares that he has given up on In-ha. At the same time, he decides to hand over all the evidence to the company, including the recordings of their conversations, and personally visit the relevant witnesses. If everything is true, he will report that Jae Myung is a murderer. Finally, with tears in his eyes, Dalpo says, "As a reporter, I will stop your revenge, and as a reporter, I will get revenge on Ms. Song." With that, he turns and leaves, but suddenly receives a call from the witness. It turns out the text back then was sent by Jae Myung. He wants to know if he could entrust Dalpo to avenge their parents. But luckily, Dalpo is a righteous reporter, so Jae Myung decides to work with him to expose the true nature of this evil reporter. Meanwhile, Ms. Song is completely unaware that danger is approaching. Soon the live broadcast begins. Ms. Song plays a video from 13 years ago showing Jae Myung trying to clear his father's name. She hopes to use this to gain the audience's sympathy and boost the show's ratings. However, things take an unexpected turn. Jae Myung questions her why she doesn't show the unedited original footage. Ms. Song becomes uneasy and tries to change the subject, but Jae Myung goes on accusing her of cleverly editing the video to turn his father into a monster. Ms. Song tries to deny this, blaming it on their newsroom's immaturity at the time. Jae Myung doesn't stop there. Instead, he sarcastically says, 13 years ago you portrayed a brave firefighter as a fugitive, and now you're turning me, a murderer, into a hero." At this, everyone looks at him in disbelief. Meanwhile, Dalpo arrives at the manager's death scene and reveals the truth to the public. In an interview video, Jae Myung admitted that he killed the 3 men who framed his father years ago and provided evidence to his crimes. At the end of the news report, Dalpo looks determined and says, "I am Ki Ha Myung." Only then do his adoptive father and younger brother finally learn his real identity. Soon, police cars fill the street outside the building. After 13 years apart, the 2 brothers finally reunite, only to face separation again. Jae Myung sighs softly, "I wish we had met sooner." Dalpo is full of regret and apologizes repeatedly, but Jae Myung does not blame him. Instead, he worries about his younger brother having to confront Ms. Song alone. Before leaving, he encourages Dalpo to become a real reporter and finish the revenge he could not complete. Back home, Dalpo decides to say goodbye to his adoptive father. The life here is so happy that he feels so guilty for Jae Myung, so he needs his father to dissolve his adoption. The old man falls into deep sorrow, yet he knows he cannot stop him. Hearing Dalpo's footsteps fade away, In-ha, hiding in her room, can no longer hold back her tears. Not long after, Jae Myung is taken to the crime scene for reenactment. The waiting reporters swarm him, and the scene looks exactly like 13 years ago. But this time, he is no longer the victim, he is the avenger. Meanwhile, Ms. Song's career suffers a heavy blow. Dalpo sneers and warns her, "Don't collapse too easily. That wouldn't be any fun." Soon, more false reports about Ms. Song are exposed. The public is outraged, with some even protesting outside the company, demanding her resignation. Moreover, another victim also steps forward. Mr. Park, once the owner of a bus company, had fired a corrupt driver. Unexpectedly, the driver was found dead the next day. Without any evidence, Ms. Song reported that he committed suicide because of losing his job. This leads to Park's company facing a boycott and ultimately going bankrupt. Now, he holds the death certificate proving the driver died of heart disease and demands that Ms. Song make a public apology. After the story breaks, the company launches an investigation and confirms that Ms. Song never verified the death certificate. The chairman furiously orders her to find a solution, or submit her resignation. In the end, the case is assigned to In-ha and Seo for in-depth investigation, while Dalpo and Yoon are also sent to uncover the truth. Dalpo eagerly shares the news with his brother. Once this report is proven to be false, he can completely bring down Ms. Song. Soon after, 4 reporters visit the victim for more details. Mr. Park reveals that he recently learned from the driver's younger brother that the driver died of a heart attack, not suicide. He then shows them the hospital's death certificate. To find the truth quickly, the 4 reporters divide the work. In-ha verifies the authenticity of the death certificate. Seo visits the driver's former colleagues. Yoon meets with the driver's family, and Dalpo questions Ms. Song to confirm whether she had followed the proper procedure back then. Faced with the questions, Ms. Song insists that she doesn't need to respond to every rumor. Dalpo coldly retorts, Can you prove that it's just a rumor? This is exactly what Ms. Song asked him years ago. Ms. Song emphasizes that she has testimonies from the deceased's family and mentions that there was a suicide note. But Dalpo keeps pressing one question: did you check the death certificate? Eventually, Ms. Song loses her temper and snaps, there was no reason to. Hearing this answer, Dalpo leaves, satisfied. Later, he learns from Seo that the driver's colleague confirms that he indeed had heart disease. Yoon also says that the driver's brother personally admits that it was not a suicide. Despite all the evidence showing that Ms. Song fabricated the story, Dalpo still feels that something is off. Just then, In-ha sends a text saying the death certificate is real. Dalpo immediately calls her, but she doesn't answer. He feels uneasy, remembering that In-ha acted the same way after meeting her mother. Sure enough, In-ha is hiccuping non-stop. Not long ago, the doctor confirmed that the driver's death certificate was forged. She doesn't want to disappoint Dalpo, so she decides to tear up the document. Just then, Dalpo suddenly appears, and In-ha instinctively tries to run away. Eventually, under Dalpo's repeated questioning, she admits the truth. Mr. Park fooled them. Dalpo breaks down. He was just one step away from success, but the truth shatters all his hopes. When he returns home, he finds his adoptive father and younger brother waiting for him. He wants to keep his distance from them, but 13 years of family bonds aren't so easy to sever. The old man worries that Dalpo won't take care of himself, so he comes to check if he's doing okay. Choi even leaves his phone number with a neighbor, telling them to contact him if his big brother gets sick. Before leaving, the old man solemnly tells Dalpo, "I won't dissolve your adoption. No matter what anyone say, you are my son for life." After they leave, Dalpo opens the gift his father left for him and is deeply moved. He tightly holds the scarf, feeling the warmth from his family. The next day, protesters gather early outside the company building, demanding Ms. Song apologize. When her car arrives, they immediately swarm to block her path. Ms. Song steps out calmly, facing the media cameras and their questions. Watching this scene, Dalpo doesn't feel satisfied. Instead, he recalls the trauma he experienced in his childhood. He realizes that if he continues to stand by, then what's the difference between him and the unscrupulous reporters he despises? So, Dalpo steps forward, revealing the real death certificate and pointing out that the driver died from a drug overdose. He then confronts Mr. Park, asking why he forged the evidence. The situation suddenly turns around, and Park tries to escape, but reporters surround him. Ms. Song looks at Dalpo in shock, not understanding why he helps her. Dalpo explains that he only does what a real reporter should do, something she should have done 13 years ago. He adds that this is why, even if she tells the truth, no one believes her. His words hit Ms. Song hard. To everyone's surprise, Ms. Song then holds a press conference, openly apologizes for her past misconduct. She also announces her resignation and accepts the consequences. Soon after, Dalpo visits his brother in prison and shares the good news. Jae-myung feels relieved that his younger brother doesn't go astray, but instead makes Ms. Song realize what it means to be a real reporter. Meanwhile, Ms. Song is packing her things at the company. Suddenly, the box splits open and everything scatters on the floor. In-ha steps forward to help and asks what she plans to do next. Ms. Song doesn't answer, only tells In-ha to be a good reporter and not to end up like her. When everything finally settles, Dalpo decides to face his feelings for In-ha. He approaches her and apologizes for hurting her mother. In-ha doesn't blame him. Instead, she feels sorry for everything he has gone through. Dalpo then gathers his courage and confesses his love, and In-ha responds with the same feelings. But since the old man cherishes Dalpo as his son, the two of them can only continue living as uncle and niece. Choi, who already senses their relationship, decides to support their love. He tells his father that Dalpo has loved In-ha for more than 10 years. Still, because they are legally family, they must suppress their feelings. Only then does the old man realize that his stubbornness has stood in the way of a beautiful love. The next day, he tells Dalpo that he has applied to cancel the adoption. He explains that he cherished Dalpo too much, that he was being stubborn. He also thanks him for living as his son for all these years. Dalpo's eyes fill with tears as he replies, "Thank you for raising me, Dad." Not long after, the couple walks into a bridal shop to try on wedding outfits. Their family is stunned by how radiant they look. At this moment, Inha finally asks the question that has lingered in her heart since middle school. Why did you want to go on the quiz show back then? Dalpo gently kisses her and answers, because I like you.